So Alyssa Turney, okay, was a 17-year-old from Phoenix, Arizona. She was living with her adoptive father, Mike Turney, okay, and her half sister, Sarah. Now, Alyssa and Sarah's mother, they share the same mother, but they have different fathers. Their mother passed away of cancer. She was diagnosed, sadly, with cancer in 1993, and she rapidly passed away in 1994, only a year later. So Michael Turney was left to raise the children. He has five other children. Now, he adopted Alyssa Turney. That's why Alyssa's last name is Turney. Okay, her birth father's name is Stephen Stram, something like that, Stephen Stram. But we'll talk about him later. Um, However, Michael Turney states that he had some issues with Alyssa, pretty much all his children. Okay, they pretty much gave him a lot of problems. You know, the typical teenagers growing up, they want their freedom. They want to be able to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, under your roof. So you know how that goes. So let's talk about how this went with Alyssa. So she was living with her adoptive father. Okay, now on May the 17th, 2001, she was picked up early from school. This was about their last day of school. Mind you, Alyssa was 17 years old. So she was, I believe she was a senior or what is the one before senior when you're in 11th grade? It's not sophomore. I think sophomore is the 10th grade. Um, she's a junior. I think they call them juniors. Okay, so I mean, I've been out of school for a long time, so I don't. So, anyways, I believe Alyssa was a junior, or if not, she was a senior. But however, it was her last day of school. Okay, I'm gonna try to rush through this without jumbling over my words, because y'all know when I get excited, I get tongue tied. But this is such a long case, I want to hurry up and get it done within at least 25 minutes. So, because your time is important. So, let's talk about it. Nobody knew that Michael picked up Alyssa early from school that day at 11:30 a.m. Okay, so they went out to lunch, and him and his daughter Alyssa got into an argument because Alyssa always kept fighting for her right to be free. She wanted to do this like her other sibling, Sarah, who was a lot younger, but Sarah had more freedom than Alyssa. It seems like Michael Turney was stricter on Alyssa than he was on Sarah. So they had that argument. He dropped Alyssa home and he went back out to go run some errands. Now, these errands took up a lot of hours because he didn't even make it to go pick up Sarah, his other daughter, from school like he always does at 3:30 in the afternoon. But however, Sarah walked with her friend to her friend's house because whenever Michael was not on time to pick up Sarah, she always just left school and went to her friend's house so they could smoke cigarettes. Of course, Michael did not approve of Sarah smoking cigarettes. I don't even think he knew, but they used to sneak off and smoke cigarettes, which is something they were not supposed to be doing because they were still kids. I don't even think Sarah was in high school yet. So, anyways, he did finally show up at Sarah's friend's house. Okay, so I believe he knows that she always ends up at her friend's house whenever he can't make it to the school on time. So, that was that. He asked Sarah, he said, look, can you call Alyssa? Because I've been trying to get in touch with her all day and she's not answering her phone. Okay, so when he told Sarah that, I'm not sure if he told Sarah that he had already been with Alyssa that day because Sarah said she didn't know that her sister was picked up from school until years after they started putting the father in the spotlight and blaming him for Alyssa's disappearance. Sarah never believed that her father had something to do with Alyssa's disappearance. But all this time as well, she also didn't know that her father picked Alyssa up from school early that day. Why was she the last one to know that Michael picked Alyssa up from school early that day? That's when she started to realize the man who could do no wrong in my eyesight, because Sarah was a daddy's girl, the man who could do no wrong in my eyesight, I'm starting to believe different. And then on top of that, there were other things that started to really harden up Sarah's heart towards her father. And let's get into these things when it comes to this case. This case gets scary and weird, very intriguing. But y'all know I got to the bottom of it, right? Let's talk about it. So they get back to the house where Alyssa is supposed to be. Okay, Sarah walks into the house. She goes to Alyssa's room and she doesn't see Alyssa, but she sees Alyssa's stuff everywhere. All of Alyssa's belongings. She also sees Alyssa's phone on the dresser, and the letter was sitting underneath the phone. There was a letter that stated, I'm going to California. You don't have to worry about me no more. Sarah, your wish came true. I'm no longer there. Dad, I took $300 from you. So, of course, you know, Sarah and her father, they panicked, okay? And about 10 o'clock that night, I guess because they was looking for Alyssa, doing what they had to do amongst themselves to look for her, but they realized, okay, it's time to report her missing. That's what they did. The father called the police and he said, my rebellious daughter, who is out of control, is missing. The police didn't really take the case as serious as the family wanted them to, because they really don't take missing children that serious. When you call and say my child's missing, okay, they don't really take that as serious as they should. Okay, and Michael knew that. I mean, he used to be law enforcement. He was only a deputy sheriff. That's all. He was just a deputy sheriff. So I guess deputy sheriffs, they don't teach you that. Sarah, his daughter, was like, you being a former law enforcement, why would you call them? Because this is, now see, Sarah, now she's starting to speak up for herself. She's standing up for herself because now the man who could do no wrong, all of a sudden his story keeps fucking up. Shit is not adding up. Sarah is doing the math. Check this out. Sarah has her own YouTube channel. Matter of fact, she has 2 YouTube channels. And it's all about finding her sister Alyssa and zooming in on her father. Let me tell you, Sarah has a YouTube channel where she's recording conversations between her and her father. Because she's getting down to the bottom of it and she's exposing him. This is some crazy shit. I've listened to all those phone calls. I watched all those channels. For the past 2 days, I have had Alyssa Turney in my energy. This is going to be a very accurate reading. All of my readings are accurate readings. So, the father, Michael Turney, let's talk about him right quick. So, he has the whole house under maximum surveillance. He has cameras in the vents ever since the kids were young growing up. He had cameras in the vents, like cameras all out on the property. His house is under maximum security. He's very super controlling because he says he wants to watch out to see if his kids are getting into trouble, especially Alyssa. Okay? Also, also, check this out. The father has duplicate cars. Same make, same model, same color. They don't stay in the same place. They're in different locations, but he has duplicate cars. Why do you have duplicate cars, Michael? Same make and model, same year. And why are the only ones that know this is your kids? Why do your kids know you have duplicate cars? And they also know that the duplicate cars are in 2 different locations. What are you doing with duplicate cars? Do you also have a duplicate house? Or another house? Maybe not a duplicate house, but do you also have a private secret house too? What are you doing with duplicate cars? What are you up to? Not only that, like Sarah said, we were under maximum security our whole entire life. I find it ironic that the day when this maximum security surveillance would have mattered the most was the day that everything was shut down. Nothing worked. No camera footage worked that day. Why? That's weird. That's crazy. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. Michael's defense is that the electric union that he used to work for, because he's also a former electrician as well as former law enforcement, who didn't know how to call in his missing child in a way that law enforcement would be on it. He was a deputy sheriff. How you didn't know how to call in your missing daughter in a way where law enforcement won't be on it? That was intentional. Why? We're going to get to it. Michael's connection to this union that he claims murdered his daughter. He was a former electrician who developed a paranoid conspiracy theory involving his former electrical union. A union is an organization of workers who unite to negotiate with employers for better wages, benefits, and conditions. Okay? Now, law enforcement, after 7 years of investigating, or so-called investigating this crime, they still haven't been able to find evidence that the person who they know has something to do with it has not been found guilty. So they're searching. So in 2008, which would have been 7 years after this investigation started, they finally got a search warrant because Michael gave them a hard time all that time searching the house. Why? You'll soon find out. So in 2008, they had a search warrant to search that house. So when they searched the house, they found a 98-page manifesto titled Diary of a Madman Martyr. What is a manifesto? A manifesto is a public declaration of intentions, motives, views published by a person, political party, organization to outline their beliefs, goals, and plan of action. What was his plan of action, though? In this 98-page manifesto titled Diary of a Madman Martyr, he accused the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, let me slow down. He accused the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers of being involved in his stepdaughter's disappearance and alleged that union-hired assassins had murdered her. When I saw that, when I heard that, I wrote down, show you what I wrote down, Aquarius. Because anything that talks about some type of a group, brotherhood, and y'all know my investigations. So y'all know in the link below, if you have any questions concerning what a sign means, what the house number means, what a planet means, I have a tutorial video linked to every reading that I do. It is a timestamp tutorial where you're able to go click on any sign, any house number, or any planet that you hear me talk about or point out in any of my charts. So you will see how I formulate my story. Now, I had to write down Aquarius because I'm going to locate where Aquarius energy is at. Because brotherhood, this union, these assassins, that's all Aquarius energy. Group effort. A group or organization, that's all Aquarius energy and 11th house energy. So I'm going to be looking at where Aquarius is and what's going on in the 11th house. Put this right here so y'all can see it. Now, this manifesto that they found in the house described a revenge plot against the union where Turney planned to drive a van filled with explosives into the Phoenix Union Hall. This is a suicide mission. You was really planning to commit suicide because they was wanting to murder your daughter. I don't really think that would have been saving her. That would have just made you, I don't want to say dumb, because you'd be surprised what you do for your own child if you really want to save them. So I'm not going to call him dumb. But committing suicide by driving a van filled with explosives into the Phoenix, because if you're driving it, you're going to blow up too. So that's a suicide mission, right? Driving it into the Phoenix Union Hall to save your daughter's life is only going to take your life. And those that survive are going to go and take your daughter out because you're no longer around to save her. So that's all I'm saying with that. And that part right there is stupid. So now they locked him up for 10 years. You want to know why? Because guess what also they found in the house? In the house, they found 26 homemade pipe bombs, 19 firearms, 2 silencers, and a van modified to function as a bomb. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for that. They didn't find Alyssa or her body or none of that. They did the search warrant to try to find evidence of him being guilty of Alyssa's disappearance, and they stumbled upon all this other shit involving his suicide mission to blow up the Phoenix Union Hall. So he did 10 years. He got out in 2017. Still wasn't convicted of anything that has to do with Alyssa. He was eventually charged with Alyssa's murder in 2020. And he was acquitted in 2023. That means he was free due to lack of physical evidence, but many still believe he was responsible for her death. The system, once again, lets us down. Let's pull some charts. Alyssa was born April 3rd, 1984. The sun was in Aries and the moon was in Taurus. And y'all know how I formulate time. Time is the sun divided by moon cycles. So when I put the moon in Taurus in Aries house, which is the first house, Taurus is rising. This is a second house chart. This is Alyssa's birth chart energy. The second house is Taurus's house. That's about money, materialism. That's down to earth, your self-esteem, your self-value, your earning capacity, all the 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, and all the things that involve the 5 senses. Okay? It is the overall experience of securing your existence here on earth. We all have Taurus energy. Okay? That is the energy in us that is comfortable in our skin with all of our 5 senses. Okay? That's also the part of us that's learning that. We all have to master our Taurus energy. Okay? Now, where is Alyssa at in her birth chart energy? She's in the 12th house. That's Pisces house. That is the most undeveloped house in us, because it represents what is hidden and what we cannot see. So now we know that all this Taurus energy wasn't highly developed in Alyssa because she had some psychiatric issues going on. Anytime you have the sun in the 11th house, in the 12th house, that's Pisces house, no matter what sign you are, you will go through the human psyche. You will go through the events that come from the human psyche. So what is the human psyche? It is the hidden aspect in us, okay? That it is how we process things that we don't know how to verbalize, okay? It is stored. Like, say, for instance, when you're young. Let's say if you was molested when you're young. I'm trying to explain the 12th house in elementary terms. Let's say when you're young and you were abused as a child, and you really was defenseless. You didn't have nothing. You couldn't do anything about it. Where does that part of you go? The part of you that's defenseless and can't do anything about that. Where does it go? And what does it turn you into? That is a 12th house effect. The helpless part of us. The part of us that we could not change. We had to accept. We all have that powerless part of us. We have things that have happened to us and that currently is happening to us that we cannot change. We have no power over. We were totally defenseless. However, it did something to us. And what it did created a shadow in us that lurks in us. This shadow in us controls our every behavior when it comes to the first house. Now we are exposed in the first house. So whatever Alyssa was going through in her life, it affected her ability. It affected her Taurus ability to become as comfortable as she wanted to in her own skin, to be able to get out here in this world and make a life for herself, because she was struggling with all these shadows within herself. That it's like it made her look at things from a shadow perspective. That's like a person who won't let you get close to them because of these unconscious fears going on within them, and you don't understand why. Because this is a 12th house effect. These type of people need counseling. Okay? They need healing. They need to do shadow work. But a lot of us don't know that we have strong 12th house energy. So let's look at what was coming first the day Alyssa disappeared. And let's compare Alyssa's birth chart energy to what came first the day she disappeared. She disappeared May 17th, 2001. The sun was in Taurus, that Taurus energy again, and the moon was in Pisces. Now, when you put a Pisces moon in Taurus's house, which is the second house, Aquarius comes first. Sounds familiar? That's why I wrote down Aquarius. Okay? Now, Aquarius represents the union and the group. Okay? And this is an 11th house chart. The 11th house. Why is the group coming first? Why is the 11th house coming first? Why is the group a union? It could be a sorority, a fraternity. It could be an organization. It could be a membership. It could be a union. Either one of those, but we know for sure it is a group. It is an affiliation. Whoever's responsible for Alyssa's disappearance is affiliated with some type of group, gang, organization, union, membership, sorority, or fraternity. They were not by themselves. So, what I did, also I looked inside of, remember I said I was going to look inside of the 11th house, right? What's going on in the 11th house? This is an 11th house chart because Aquarius is the 11th sign of the zodiac. But if you look in the actual 11th house, you'll see Sagittarius. Why is Sagittarius there? You know why Sagittarius is there? Because guess what also I did that I wasn't going to do, but I did at the last minute. I looked up Alyssa's stepfather, Michael Turney. I looked up his birth chart. And guess what I discovered? He was born November 26, 1960. Look what he is, a Sagittarius. Right there in that group, in that union, in that organization. Okay? Now, Michael's moon is in Pisces, just like the moon was in Pisces the day Alyssa disappeared. What a synchronicity. Am I saying he did it? No. What I am saying is I'm reading the synchronicity. I'm reading the energy. And energy don't lie. I'm seeing a lot of alignments. And I'm also seeing this union is somewhere in this energy of this crime. Because it's a crime. I'm not saying the union did it or Michael did it, but I do see Michael being synchronized with the energy of this disappearance, and I'm also seeing the union. So let's pull Michael's chart. When you put a Pisces moon in Sagittarius' house, which is the 9th house, Cancer is rising. Michael is a domestic chart. Cancer is rising. That's the mother, home, and family. He was a family man. That's the picture he painted. He painted a 4th house picture. Maximum security in the family. This is Michael's chart. Now, y'all know I always look in the 8th house of death when it comes to missing people to see if I can find clues of whether they're gone or not, or have been unalive. Now, when I look in the eighth house of Michael's chart, look what I see. Aquarius. Why am I seeing Aquarius in the house of death in Michael's chart? What is going on in Alyssa's chart in the house of death? Sagittarius. What a synchronicity. Michael is a Sagittarius. What is his energy doing in Alyssa's house of death? And Michael was affiliated with this union. He was a former employee and member of the union. Why is the union coming first the day Alyssa disappeared? And not only is the union coming first, but why is the union in Michael's house of death when it comes to the disappearance of his daughter? What a motherfucking synchronicity. Absolutely unacceptable that law enforcement did not want to take this into consideration. Who? Who is responsible for Alyssa Turney's disappearance and her death? I strongly believe that Alyssa is gone. I could be wrong, but I have a strong, my gut intuition tells me that Alyssa is gone and her father and this union play some role in her disappearance and her death. Who is responsible for Alyssa's disappearance and death? Who is responsible? Who is responsible for Alyssa Turney's disappearance and death? Staff in the second house. He was a former electrician, a staff member. Now, the second house is Alyssa's birth chart. Now, in the second house, this staff is colored by Gemini energy, right? Gemini is somebody in the local environment. This is a neighbor. This is an employee somewhere in her neighborhood. Now, in the local environment, which is Gemini's house, the third house, I see Cancer. And it's ironic that I see Cancer there because Cancer rules the moon. And the moon was in Pisces this day. In Alyssa's chart, when she disappeared, May 17, 2001, the moon was in Pisces, which is right here in Aquarius's house of the union. So in Michael's chart, Cancer comes first. This was the first person that Alyssa would have had an interaction with in her community. And Michael's moon as well is in Pisces. And it's in the ninth house. Where is your body, Alyssa Turney? Dead or alive, where is your body? Where is your body, Alyssa? And then look in the actual chart of the day she disappeared. Look at the staff member. Pisces, right there in the second house. Too much synchronicities. Too much synchronicities. Too much synchronicities. Where is Alyssa Turney's body? Where is Alyssa Turney's body? Where is Alyssa Turney's body? Born April 3rd, 1984, and she disappeared May 17, 2001. Where is Alyssa Turney's body? in a body of water in the ninth house. You can't make this up. I just got finished talking about the ninth house. That is where Pisces is. And Pisces rules the water. And it's hidden in the body of water in the ninth house. That's where Pisces is. That staff member, the day she disappeared, Pisces, right there. Now, in Michael's chart, in the second house, I see Leo. Leo is the energy of romance, playful love affairs. And when I look inside of Leo's house, I see Scorpio. So these love affairs were sexual in nature. Now, it was said that Michael used to sexually molest Alyssa growing up. Alyssa had a boyfriend who found a video in that house of two young girls sitting on a couch naked with just some shorts on and newspaper covering their face. And the boyfriend knew that one of those girls, even without seeing her face, he knew that that was his girlfriend Alyssa, Michael's stepdaughter. But who was the other girl? Probably one of the neighbors in the community that used to come over and play with Alyssa. And the father was sexually molesting both of them. And the brother found the video. Ain't no telling how many other videos are in that house, along with them pipe bombs and all them firearms and silencers, including a van that's designed to be a bomb. Finding a lot of sex videos wouldn't surprise me in that kind of house. So, and this took place, and in Alyssa's birth chart, look where Leo is at, in the fourth house. In the fourth house. In the fourth house of home and family. Okay? In the fourth house of home and family. And where's Scorpio at? The seventh house of relationships. This is Libra's house. These sexual relationships. Okay? With her father. Okay? The sexual relationships. Why is sexual relationships important? Because look what's in the ninth house of the day she disappeared. The relationship, Libra. And look what's in Libra's house. Leo. The playfulness. And Scorpio is right there in the 10th house. The father's house. The house of public affairs. The father's house. Alyssa, I'm going to pull 3 cards. I want you to tell me where, who, what, where, when, and why. Help us close this case out and bring justice to your family so they can sleep. They can finally sleep so they'll know what happened. Connect the rest of these dots, Alyssa Turney. Y'all ready for these 3 cards? 1, 2, 3. All right. The first card came out was the first house. And then we have Aries. Aries rules the first house. Alyssa is an Aries, right? The first house. Why did the first house come out? Look what's in the first house. Right here, Alyssa's first house, you have Taurus. That Taurus energy. Her father's first house, you have Cancer. Okay? And then the day she disappeared, the first house was Aquarius. This is one of the employees from that union. Okay? So, the 7th house, which is where we saw this relationship, this playful relationship where Leo is, okay? Sexual aspect of the playful relationship, okay? In the 7th house where Scorpio is in Alyssa's chart, which was going on at home, because look at where Leo is at home, Okay? So, and in the father's chart, okay, this sexual relationship right here has a lot to do with money. Okay? Sexual relationships with his child. Because the fifth house is the house of children. That's Leo's house. Okay? And in the second house of money, this is Taurus's house. You have Leo. Okay? This is Taurus's house. Where is Taurus at in Alyssa's chart? It comes first. She was the one that was involved in these sexual relationships, and she is an Aries. Not only was her father the one doing this, he knew other people that was doing this with Alyssa. He knew other people. Everybody had these secrets. And see, in order, and see, if they would have said something, it would have opened up a can of worms. It would have opened up a can of worms. Because as soon as the father would have told the truth, that would have exposed a lot of other shit that he tried to cover up. And it would expose a lot of other people. And that would have fucked up his whole plan to begin with. And it would have put the rest of his family in danger. My elders used to always tell me, what doesn't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse. Perfect example of this. You can't hide. You cannot beat God. God is the way it all works. The way the universe works. The way the spirit works. What doesn't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse. You cannot beat God. But there are people down here trying. And a lot of us know how to connect, direct connection with the spirit realm. And I'm one of them. And I use that connection for the greater good to expose this toxic shit that's being hidden. I expose the hidden part of existence that's trying to destroy us. We don't have answers. We can't sleep at night. We don't know who's doing what because even the government is hiding shit from us. Law enforcement don't even want to tell us the stuff that they know. So where can we find answers? We are built for that connection. And a lot of us are just examples of that connection. But all of us are built to tap in to the spirit realm. I'm going to leave this reading at that. Y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. Also, before I log off, I want to also talk about this Virgo energy in the house of death the day she disappeared. Virgo energy is the energy of the employee. It is the energy of the workforce. It is also the energy of sanitation. Now, when the energy of sanitation is in the house of death, when it comes to finding out if a person is dead, which we know that Alyssa is most likely dead, Virgo in the 8th house will always tell me that this is a type of death where most likely they put a body in the dumpster. So that way the staff can come and empty the dumpster into the truck and take everything in that dumpster out to the wasteland. That is my reading on Alyssa Turney, and I'm sticking to it. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you'll be notified when I drop my investigations. Y'all be blessed.